Hi everyone, and welcome to our second video blog. We thank you all for tuning in, subscribing, commenting, and sharing our videos. We received extremely positive feedback after our first video, and we also had several requests to do more. So here we are to share our perspectives of the week's latest hot topics. Before we get started, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank every one of you for your faithful engagement on our social media channels like Facebook and Twitter. Thanks to you, we have one of the highest Facebook engagements of any other Republican page outside of the US. Some of you may know that today is the first day of what we call deconfinement in France. The country is progressively lifting its lockdown, and we'll talk about our individual plans for celebrating this renewed sense of freedom. So let's dive right into the headlines. Paul, should we start with you? How do you feel about the confinement ending? Do you feel apprehensive? Do you feel like you should go on about your business just as usual? Or what are your feelings about the first day of freedom?
Liberated. I feel, no, I don't feel apprehensive at all. I feel it's great to be able to get out. Not within the restricted hours. And today I went out down around the Châtelet region of Paris, and it was so nice to be able to get out into Paris without having to carry an attestation to justify where you were going, like a note from your doctor.
A lot of people don't know what this attestation is in France, what we've been required to carry upon us, because the conditions aren't the same in the US. So maybe you can explain what we've been required to do over the past 8 weeks or so with this attestation.
Yeah, well, every time you leave the home, you're supposed to either print this form that you fill out every day with a timestamp and a date to show the reason. You have different reasons why that you're allowed to leave, either going to see the doctor, going to work, or going to buy essential items from a grocery store. But if you didn't have one, you could be fined over $100. And you had to print it out every day or put it on your phone, download it on your phone. But still, you just had to go through the process of doing it.
If I may, my understanding was that initially it was like 100 and something euros. And then because so many people were not complacent, they increased it to the minimum. The first offense was 300 euros. The second offense was over 1,000. If you
really?
get it a second time without this paper on you, over €1,000 fine.
Okay, so today we could just go out, but most people were wearing masks, and the subways called the Metro here in Paris was running, and it's mandatory to wear a mask in the metros, and everybody was pretty much wearing masks. You can't social distance in the subways. But everybody was pretty cool about everything. It was just good to get out. I was surprised at still the number of the shops that were closed. Typically the boulangerie, the patisserie, the bakeries and pastry shops are open. They were open before, supermarkets. And there was some shops open, but I was surprised at how many still weren't open. Of course, they have all the big malls, the Centre Commercial, we say here. They were still closed in Ile-de-France, in the Paris area. But it's great to get out and people are just saying hello, and it's like things starting to get back to normal.
How about you, Eric? Did you do anything special today with your first day of freedom?
No, because I'm still in Switzerland. I just can't get out of here.
So,
why are you
still hooked up in Switzerland? Can I take my mask off? Is that okay?
Why are you?
Is it okay?
Don't sneeze on the camera.
Much better.
Permission.
So I can't get back until the trains start up again, the TGVs or the planes. I won't be coming back to Paris. So it's been 2 months now, and I'm ready to come and visit and see all my mail. I'm supposed to have 2 months of mail, including my tax. The tax form that I need to fill out before a certain date. I hope they'll be as understanding in France, which they usually are not, as in America. I think, didn't Donald Trump say taxes didn't have to be paid for another 2 or 3 months? I haven't heard of anything about that in France.
Well, on
And
this,
a lot of people haven't earned any money, you know. So how are they going to pay any taxes at all, you know? So it feels like a war on the poor, you know. Always for our good, for the benefit of our health. But for me, there's a war on the poor here, both you know, and on the new continent and on the old continent.
Yeah, and so what do you guys think of how the reopening is happening in the U.S., but different states are opening with different phases, and basically President Trump has left it up to each governor to decide how he or she wants to reopen each state. How do Paul? Maybe you can explain your point of view on how Trump has approached this with the governors.
Yeah, it's a good question. Unlike France, you know, the U.S. is a federalist society. Our states are very, very important. So they have state rights. So I agree with Trump for not trying to send the rules directly from Washington for all states to abide by. But so it's up for the governors. I mean, the federal government has set guidelines for reopening in stages, and it's up for the governors to determine when they fully reopen based on those guidelines. And it's up to the mayors of the large cities in those states to also work with their governors to make decisions on whether their community is ready. And I agree with that. But what's happening, unfortunately, is that you primarily have Democrat governors who are not seeing the importance for completely opening their economies now and as soon as possible. And you know, we've seen basically what you have in the United States is you have about 50% of, I mean, a lot of people always just talk about the number of deaths in the United States, which is the highest in the world, if you believe the Chinese numbers, you know, the numbers of deaths coming out of China. We don't believe. But let's say it's the highest in the world. But if you look at the stats, which they very rarely break down, you have 50% of the deaths in the United States in 3 states, New York, in the New York area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Those 3 states have 50%. So you have 47 other states that comprise the other 50%. And, you know, you have very few deaths in Democrat states like Michigan, like Pennsylvania, like California. And those Democrat-run states are really making it very difficult to reopen the state, reopen the economy. And they're putting draconian, tyrannical laws, as we know, on the people, and are forcing the police and the sheriffs to enforce those rules. And that's where it's really getting interesting, because a lot of the police and sheriffs, depending on the state, are refusing to arrest people. Some are, some aren't. But it's going to come down to voting, I think. You know, if the people in those states aren't happy with the way the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is managing it, or in Colorado, in Michigan or Pennsylvania, you know, they're gonna have a price to pay come next election.
Mm-hmm. Very
May I
good
add
point.
something?
Yeah, Eric, do you have anything to add to the topic?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think this is a perfect. This is a perfect way we see how the fake news operates. You know, America has, like, I think it's 70,000 deaths now. You know, whereas Italy has only 40,000. You know, so that's almost double. But America has 330 million people, which is 5 times more than Italy. So if you take the 5 largest countries in Europe, which is the UK, France, Spain, Italy, perhaps Germany, you get those people have about the same population as America. You have they're closing up on double as many as the United States has, and this is something that the media should look into immediately. You know, this is something that they shouldn't just repeat this and say, yeah, well, they're more in the United States than anywhere else. You have to do a population. You have to control for population.
So how do you think
that the American media and the European media do not do this? It's beyond a caricature, you know.
But have you heard the variations of how different European countries have handled the virus? And for example, I read that Spain was talking about sending disinfectant through airplanes into the major cities. Apparently, some people were actually dying outside on the streets. How do you feel about the different approaches that have been taken by the various European countries? For example, Germany was big on testing. What's your opinion as to the variations of the approach handled by the different European countries?
My solution to the approach is the one that was in Hong Kong, where they didn't close anything, and there's only like 4 deaths, less than 10 deaths until now. You know, everybody has to wear a mask. No store, not a single store has closed. They talk, you know, we talked about this last week, how you hear that 800 people have died in France or in some country in the last 24 hours. For now, the total number of deaths in France is 40,000 or 30,000, I think it is. You know, it sounds like a tsunami of Black Death from the Middle Ages, going through and destroying everything. If it's true that everybody most of the people who died were elderly people, 80 and who died in their in retirement homes, then it's a totally different image, which is why they haven't, again, the fake news media hasn't cut them down by age. And the only country, I said this last week, I believe, the only country that has done that is Israel, as far as I know. And Israel said that only 6% of the people who have died are under 60 years of age, and the average age of those who have died is 79. So I don't think anybody should have done anything, to tell the truth.
So that's interesting.
A lot of people have gone through the thing without even knowing it sometimes, and 2 or 3 weeks later, they were healthy again.
The Swedish have taken a very reasonable approach as to, they haven't forced some social distancing, but they haven't, forbidden elementary age children to attend schools. They've encouraged people to distance themselves at restaurants, but they haven't actually closed down their entire economy.
Yeah.
But to change the subject,
who would have?
Well, I would just.
Who would have thought that we would be praising Sweden? You know, who would have thought that?
The answer is not clear as to the outcome of Sweden just yet. I think the data is still inconclusive.
Yeah, let me just say something. I'm Danish. You know, I'm half Danish. If you look at the Danes have said, well, the Swedish have more deaths than Denmark and Norway together. Yes, but the Danish and the Norwegian populations together are about the same as the Swedish population by itself. So again, they make all these apocalyptical statements without showing where there's a difference. You know.
I would just say that hindsight's always 20/20. I do not hold my opinion. We're going to have differences of opinions on it. My opinion is that no one knew in the beginning how contagious it was going to be. And if somebody says, yeah, we shouldn't have done that, and I knew it wasn't going to be very contagious or something, to speak in certainty like that, I think is just wrong. I don't blame any country for closing things down. Because it was an unknown, and France closed down and other countries closed down. That's my personal opinion. I think it's okay for states in the United States to close down just to get a handle on it. Listen to the science. But now that we're seeing that things are leveling off because of that, it's time to get going and not let the solution be worse than the disease. And. Exactly, and it's time to really get moving, or else we'll have a massive depression and never get out of it. So I think on the French side, I think they've done a pretty good job. They had problems in getting equipment and things like that, but from a closing down the society, I think for a little while was okay. But now the problem is a lot of French are scared to go out now. You know, listening to people seeing the reporting on
And
TV
the
from
U.S. too, I believe, and a lot of Americans are as well are operating on fear.
I think this, you know, this, because the government has constantly said this is a massive problem. It's really, well, it's not as massive as what the governments have been saying. And now there's a lot of fear being spread. There's a lot of people who don't want to go shop. They don't want to open, some of them don't even want to open up their stores, as you can see. They're scared. The majority do, but there's just a lot of fear going on, and we have to, that's not going to help get the economy rolling again. And I think that has to be, you know, minimized.
Okay.
And that Trump is, you know, in the U.S. pushing the fact that, you know, this is, hot weather is going to slow it down. It can continue to all of that. But if you listen to the French, everyone, and probably the Democrats in the U.S., they're all convinced it's going to come back huge in, you know, in the fall. And there's a lot of physicians who have said there's very low risk of that.
Okay, let's move on to the next subject because we are very limited with time. I'd like to ask about the origins of the virus. What do you think of, is there evidence that China may have covered up the origin of the virus, being that of the Wuhan Virology Institute, or what are your opinions on this theory? Mike Pompeo and President Trump have both suggested that there's evidence that points to perhaps the evidence, perhaps the possibility of the virus escaping from the lab, either probably accidentally, but we don't know. No one really knows. We're not privy to this type of intelligence. Eric, what's your opinion on as to the origin of the virus?
Well, I was just reading about the pandemic of 1960, in the late 1960s. It originated from China too, from Hong Kong. There was one in the 1950s. This has been totally forgotten. It originated in China too. So it seems like a lot of these pandemics originate in China for whatever reason. And which is why I don't think it's a bad idea to call it the Wuhan virus or the Chinese virus, you know? It's just saying where it originated.
Yeah, but the question is, you know, was it a lab or was it a natural animal to human transmission? And there's a lot of questions being asked in the general public, not just the conspiracy theorists, or a lot of people are, I mean, Mike Pompeo, he said it was from a lab, and then he backtracked, and President Trump said he believed it came from the lab, but obviously we don't have this type of intelligence.
What is suspicious, of course, is that next to the market, everybody says it came from this market, but the lab is right next to the market. So you cannot help but wonder, you know, which part, what part comes from where.
This is why we need an investigation, and it has to be really a global, at least a Western society pushed investigation. Because we don't know. Nobody really knows, you know. Probably from this lab, was it accidental? Or was it intentional? These things should be investigated. There was this group of, I don't know if you've seen this report by the Five Eyes Intelligence Consortium. Just last week, a summary of their findings was leaked, and a lot of people are talking about it. And the Five Eyes Intelligence Consortium is the United States, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And they were talking about that, yes, it did come from this lab, and it's not sure whether it was accidental or intentional, but still, it was very interesting, very thought-provoking, a lot of intelligence, and I guess it's going to be officially coming out. But you know, and then you have Nikki Haley in the United States pushing Congress, sending out a petition to push Congress to do an investigation. Europe needs to get on board. That's what I want to say. You know, so you have a lot of these non-European countries getting involved, starting to look at the origin. Maybe, but Europe has to start questioning the role of China's role in this as well. And before, just last
Speaking
thing,
of which, if I may, speaking of which, they came out with a report too, and I'm sure you remember this. They cut out all the stuff that was critical of China, like it originated in China. They cut that out.
right?
There was an EU report, you know, that's...
Yeah,
Yeah,
because China threatened them actually with some the supply of essential equipment, PPE, masks. From what I understand, the Chinese authorities threatened Europe to lower their stance because they really risk, the supply chain is really coming from China. And I think a lot of countries are reassessing how important it is to start remanufacturing essential supplies at home.
yes,
right.
and pharmaceuticals, not just supplies, but actual medication.
Life-saving drugs, and
And I think that'd be a great thing that comes out of this is that people are going to start making them themselves in their own countries and being less dependent on China. But what I wanted to say was, unfortunately, in the United States, the Democrat House is pushing for an investigation on Trump rather than an investigation on China. You know, we should all be working together, and not just in the U.S., but with Europe and Canada, Australia, New Zealand, that Five Eyes group, UK, and work with hopefully the United Nations, but probably not, but to look into the origins of this virus. But the Democrats are going to be too busy again with another attack on Trump, which is just so insane.
Waste of time and money. Which brings me to the next question, because we need to keep moving. I'd like to talk about big censorship, big tech censorship. Have you noticed that there's been an increase of, I think Candace Owens got blocked on Twitter, or well, at least temporarily suspended from Twitter. A lot of YouTube videos challenging the origins of the virus. There's a few videos on YouTube that actually went viral, and we're talking
That's a good word.
several million views within 24 hours. And immediately those videos were pulled from YouTube for violating community standards and passing misinformation on the coronavirus. Apparently, public companies have the right to suppress the First Amendment. But what are your views on the censorship that's like the constitutional rights that we've been given, how they're being suppressed because of this virus? What are your views?
Eric, why don't you go ahead? I spoke last.
Well, they, being a private company, they have that argument going for them. But they're also doing a service, and they shouldn't be in the. If they go around saying we're here to let the public, use their First Amendment, then they shouldn't be censoring that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible in the United States right now. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Google, which owns many of it now, is just cracking down on the so-called, as you said, misinformation. It's not misinformation. It's a different of opinion. But if you go against the establishment opinion or the World Health Organization opinion, big tech says you violated their norms or their policies. I mean, this video talking just like this, we could get censored too.
Yeah, just because we have opinions that maybe diverge from the accepted narrative, the official narrative.
It's terrible, but it's being exposed. Everyone knows about it now, and for us, if our video gets censored, you just don't put it on YouTube, unfortunately. YouTube is a fantastic, huge platform, and anybody can search and see our videos, but we'll put it on our website, and as many other people are just creating their own websites, because YouTube keeps censoring things. And there's so many important videos to see. What was the one with the lady? Her name was Dr.
Judy Mikovits. Yeah.
Very important video. I'll plug that right here. Judy Mikovits.
Did you watch it?
Of course,
No.
yeah. I
Oh,
watched
yeah.
it.
Okay, because now they've taken it down. Very,
Oh.
very informative, very eye-opening. I can't attest to her credibility. I can't
Yeah.
attest to her scientific knowledge. I'm not a scientist, but
I don't know if it's all true or not, but it's an opposing opinion that should be heard and discussed. That's
yeah, exactly.
The Democrats are always for science when it goes according to their own viewpoint.
all. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
a religion. They're more religious than anybody else.
As long as our
Anything that goes against their viewpoint.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we got to keep moving. The last topic I want to discuss is the General Flynn charges
Oh.
being dropped in the U.S. Apparently, there's a big movement about an FBI coup having taken place against General Flynn, and more importantly, against our president, because they saw him as an obstacle to Trump. Explain what you know about the General Flynn exoneration and the dropping of all the charges by the DOJ, and what are your thoughts?
Well, it's a big subject to explain, but in a nutshell, he was being accused. He was being recommended to spend something like 6 months in jail for lying, and but the truth is he didn't lie. He was, and that's what you won't hear from the mainstream media. He is a 33-year honored veteran, general in the military, and for them to go after him because he worked in the Obama administration as a national security advisor, I think, or something similar to that. And then Obama, for some reason, didn't like him. He was part of the Trump administration, and they went after him. And Comey went after him, set up a hit piece to catch him. Well, they taped him first. They taped his. The whole thing started with them, the Obama wiretapping, and they taped his conversation with the Russian ambassador, and they accused him of saying something nefarious about the Obama sanctions that they had put on Russia for meddling in the 2016 election. Okay, so but it's all made up. It was all a smear because all he said was, "I don't really recall talking about sanctions there." And then they said, "Oh, you did," and oh well, and so it was all kind of like set up, and then. Was it really a lie that he said, "I don't really recall"? But basically, the good news is, and they destroyed him financially. They threatened his son to go to jail if he wouldn't say, "Okay, I lied." Okay, so they basically smeared him. And right now, Barr looked into it in detail and with his team and said, "Okay, he didn't do anything." So we're dropping all charges. And what would be fantastic would be to see Trump hire him into his administration, which is being rumored right now.
The question, if you don't mind, do you think the DOJ is actually going to bring the deep state to justice? Do you think there's any impending charges against this abuse of power by the FBI?
Well, John Durham is the one doing the investigation with Attorney General Barr, and every day we see more and more coming out. So we've been hoping this is all going to come out. We've been hoping for a couple of years now. So hopefully it will. And it's probably going to lead all the way up to Obama. And they're calling it already Obamagate. And you see various smart people like Trey Gowdy, who was in the know over the past number of years, starting to publicly speak about how terrible this all was. And worse than Watergate being Obamagate. So we shall see. We shall hope.
Okay, great. And
May I add something?
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to add something. I've had a lot of discussions online with liberals who say, and even neutral people, I guess, who'd say, well, Flynn said they said he lied and he pled guilty. And I'd like to quote law professor Glenn Reynolds from Instapundit blog, who said that the punishment is not what happens at the end; it's the process. The fact that you have to go through all this, you have to hire lawyers, You spend a fortune on lawyers. Finally, you do plead guilty because otherwise you will be financially ruined at the end of the process. And there's a video on YouTube, on YouTube that says, "Don't talk to the police." And he talks about different things, how everything can be construed as a lie, even if the police aren't, or the FBI in this case, is in good faith. And so one of the main mistakes that General Flynn did was not bring lawyers. He was told that, oh, it's nothing. We just want to have a little talk with you. But you should always bring a lawyer when you talk to the police or to the FBI, however anonymous or however famous you are.
If I can just jump in there, I think what's really surprising about this case, and what a lot of people find astonishing, is that if a 33-year veteran of the United States, if this can happen to someone of his stature, this can happen to any of us. And I think it does happen. And this is this is why we need to really pay attention to abuses within our government, because, you know, we are a country whose constitution is uniquely founded on government by the people, for the people.
Yeah.
And we need to pay close attention to not allowing these types of deep state abuse of power for political hits, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Attorney generals in states and prosecutors have too much power in general.
We'll hope they'll be held accountable.
Oh my God!
Do we have to finish with Joe Biden? Do we have time to talk about Joe Biden?
Yeah. Last topic. Let's get on to Joe Biden, and then we're going to need to close it off. We're approaching a good 30 minutes already, so yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, what do you want to say about Joe Biden?
Well,
read Megyn Kelly interview. What do you think?
It's just the gift that just keeps on giving. Well, you know, we should definitely mention it. Yeah, well, you know, Tara Reid, the woman who has accused Biden of sexual assault, gave an interview with Megyn Kelly, and I don't know that if people haven't seen it, they should watch it. Megyn Kelly was hard hitting; she was tough, you know. But I think Tara Reid was very credible, and there's more and more. She's getting more and more credible, and it's hilarious to watch. You know, some of her divorce papers are from back in '96 are coming out that show that even her ex-husband talked about the fact that she was talking about Joe Biden's assault. And more and more liberals are just saying, like we talked about before this, the Bill Maher. Maher's taking a lot of heat because he came out and he tried to, complain about Democrats that were taking it seriously. So he got hit by Democrats and Republicans after that. He was saying that this is the last thing we should be doing is listening to someone and showing such importance to an accuser or a victim. And, you know, it's just bad. So, you know, this is not going away. And I wanted to say real quickly, I'll turn it over to Eric, that there's a new Morning Consult survey. I don't know if you saw this. It says that 26% of Democrats, including 40% of those under the age of 45, said the party should select a different nominee. So, as I said before, the party is really split, and this Tara Reid problem is adding to it.
It's going to be interesting. Right. Yeah. Eric, what's your thoughts?
Again, it's the double standards. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You know, Kavanaugh, Bill Maher didn't mention Kavanaugh once. That was the elephant in the room. He didn't see it at all. Kavanaugh, they went on Kavanaugh for months and weeks, days and days, months and months, and Joe Biden comes out in the New York Times, ABC, CBS, the Washington Post says nothing for like 2 weeks. It's totally ridiculous. It's totally double standard. And led Instapundit, which I mentioned earlier, it says, Me Too is bullshit. It's total bullshit. It's only to be used against conservatives and Republicans. You know.
What do you think the chances the DNC is going to take place in about a month or 6 weeks? What are the chances that they might select another candidate apart from Joe Biden? Because I personally suspect that they're going to eat him up. He's not. I don't see any way that he could win against Trump, especially once the debates take place.
Oh yeah, the debates.
Once the convention
That'll be so
takes
funny.
place, I think that's going to be one of the most monumentous, interesting DNC debate that we're going to ever see in our lifetimes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
DNC debate.
Well, no,
I think
You mean
like
Republican?
I think you were talking about the convention, the Democrat National Convention.
The convention. I'm sorry. Yeah, the convention. Yes. The
Been
DNC
delayed.
convention. Yes.
Not in a month. It's going to be both conventions, Republican and Democrat, are going to be delayed to at least August, I think, if not.
Okay. I wasn't aware.
And the thing about the Democrats is, I don't know. I think they're all in for Biden. I'd be surprised. I mean, there's a lot of, Cuomo maybe, but I would just be surprised. We'll see. To be seen.
It's really interesting to see if they might turn on their own.
Really, the Bernie supporters really are fed up. They're fed up with the Democrat establishment putting everything behind Biden, throwing Tara Reid under the bus. Such hypocrisy, and it's really split. I've always said this. The Democrat Party is really split. So, I can't wait for those debates to start. Really can't.
That's going to be great. So on that,
and the debate with Trump, the debate between Biden and Trump, that'll be fun.
That's what
I was thinking about.
Each of you, we need to close this. So if you want to say one last word, and then we're going to thank our supporters.
No, just glad to be a bit liberated here in the Paris region. And to all of our followers, be free, push for freedom, push for liberty, in a safe way.
Eric, what's your final thought?
Wear your masks. No, not really. It was just nonsense.
As for me, I'd say wash your hands, don't get too paranoid, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And we thank you for watching, and thank you for all of your engagement, and we'll see you again very soon. So thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.